20th day of October 2025 on The Explainer tonight.
Mlipuko. Kumbe niyo ndege ilikuwa ya chanika, maana mabati yako mbalimbali, mifuko iko mbali, vipande vya nyama ziko mbalimbali.
Dawn horror in Kwale. 11 people, among them tourists, perish after a light aircraft crashes in the hills of Kwale County.
Kaniambia kwenu hutaenda na nitakuwa ujue mimi ni Mkamba.
Alikuwa anahitaji pesa zaidi kutoka kwangu, akisema kwamba ndiye akona dada yangu na hata muachilia mpaka atakapopata pesa kutoka kwangu.
Trail of terror. Police confirmed the body of a missing University of Nairobi student among several victims linked to a suspected serial killer.
The minister was allocated that parcel of land. He sold it to a private individual, a company called Gigiri Court Limited.
Green justice. EACC reclaims 17 acres of Karura forest land valued at 2.8 billion shillings and grabbed during the KANU era.
Huyu mzee wetu ndiye alikuwa anafanya kazi ndogo tu ya ukulima, ndio tulikuwa ndiye alikuwa anafanya, ndio tunapata pesa ya kulipa school fees.
Grief and anguish in Kisii. Families of 5 victims killed in a Keroka road crash plead with the government to act, calling for speed bumps to end road carnage. And also tonight on The Explainer, Power Talk is back. Today we're talking about some assets that might be somewhere out there that belong to you. How do you claim them? Tonight we'll be talking about the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority here with the chairperson. He will be telling us the mandate of the authority, what unclaimed assets are, where they exist, and how you can be reunited with your wealth. That is on Power Talk on The Explainer, which starts right now.
Live from Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
And Joki Shege is our sign language interpreter. Tonight we begin this news bulletin with a plane tragedy where 11 people were killed after a light aircraft crashed in Kwale County. The plane, which was carrying tourists, crashed shortly after takeoff from Diani while en route to Kichwa Tembo in the Masai Mara. The deceased include the captain and 10 foreigners. Investigations into the cause of the crash have been initiated. Brenda Wanga tells us more.
The gloomy weather mirrors the grim events that have unfolded here in the hilly and forested Simbagolini area of Matuga, Kwale County. At around 8:35 a.m., the serenity of this area was shattered with deadly consequences.
Mlipuko. Kumbe niyo ndege ilikuwa ya chanika, maana mabati yako mbalimbali, mifuko iko mbali, vipande vya nyama ziko mbalimbali.
The plane, operated by Mombasa Air Safari, had left Diani at 8:25 a.m. On board were 11 people. 8 Hungarian and 2 German tourists, captained by a Kenyan pilot. They were heading to Kichwa Tembo in the Masai Mara. The Ministry of Transport says 10 minutes after departure and 40 kilometers away from Diani, the plane lost radar control with the Mombasa International Airport's control tower. It had crashed here in the thickets of Simbagolini and burst into flames. The air company and the government confirming that none of the people on board survived the crash. First responders describe harrowing scenes in the aftermath of the crash.
On my way, nikampata admin, wakati na mimi nawasiliana na chifu wangu na assistant chief. Tulipofika pale tukaona ni moto tu unawaka. Tukajaribu kuzunguka sehemu zote, tumepata wenzetu nyama zao ziko juu ya miti. Kilichotokea paka ikalipua ndege siwezi hadithi tena.
Efforts to secure the scene and retrieve the mortal remains of the fatalities were hampered both by the terrain and the rains that have been pounding the area all morning. The PS for Immigration, Belio Kipsang, has since visited the crash site to examine the wreckage.
But as for the details of the accident, you will allow us not to discuss it because the experts who deal with that have not arrived here.
The Ministry of Transport's Aircraft Accident Investigation Department is expected to lead the investigations into the cause of the crash. The air travel company has indicated its cooperation with the investigations while promising to support the families of the deceased. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
It is now emerging that 21-year-old University of Nairobi student Jane Atila was allegedly murdered by her estranged boyfriend after her family failed to raise 1,500 shillings demanded as ransom by the suspect. Now, this comes as more victims step forward with damning allegations against the suspect, Nicholas Mutua, whom they accuse of torturing and sexually assaulting them within the Kefri forest. Franklin Wala reports.
Moments after Citizen TV aired a story of Nicholas Mutua Mutia, who was arrested in connection with the disappearance and alleged brutal murder of Jane Atila, more victims continue emerging with damning revelations incriminating the suspect. Tuesday, 2 female victims recorded their statements with the police at Kikuyu police station. In their statement, they say Nicholas Mutua abducted them while within Kefri forest in Kikuyu, Kiambu.
Kaniambia kwenu hutaenda na nitakuwa ujue mimi ni Mkamba. Nimeua wangapi? Nimekunywa damu ngapi? Hata wewe ujue siku yako ni leo.
They were allegedly robbed, tortured and sexually abused by the suspect and in some cases beaten and left for the dead.
Hataki kitu yoyote, kitu nataka ni pesa. Na nilikuwa na pesa, lakini hiyo siku pepe hiyo simu nilikuwa na pesa. Nilikuwa na 100 bob kwa simu, akaniambia nipe hadi pini ya M-Pesa, nikampea. Juu sikuwa na pesa. Hiyo siku hata ni Mungu alinisaidia.
Police now have their testimonies as part of their evidence against Mutua, as they urge more victims with similar encounters to come forward. As this happened, fresh details of a phone call conversation claimed to be between Nicholas Mutua and Jane's family has revealed a man who was on a mission. In the phone call recording, Mutua is heard allegedly demanding money from Jane's family and threatening them on the night Jane disappeared.
Nikamwambia hapo utoki bila hizo pesa zangu kunirejeshea, so mimi ndio niko naye, so mkimtaka mimi ndio niko naye. Nitumie hiyo 1,500, mimi sister yako nitamtoa kwenye alipo.
The family says Nicholas demanded for 2,500 shillings from them. Jane's brother managed to send him 1,000 shillings, and when he didn't send an extra 1,500, Jane was allegedly killed.
Alikuwa anahitaji pesa zaidi kutoka kwangu, akisema kwamba ndiye akona dada yangu na hata muachilia mpaka atakapo pata pesa kutoka kwangu. Nilijaribu kwenda kuripoti mara 2 Kabete police station, nilirudishwa kwa gate mara zote 2 wakidismiss story yangu.
Jane's mutilated body was later discovered on 17th October while decomposing inside Kefri forest. A fingerprint analysis on Tuesday positively identified the body as that of Jane, leaving her family more devastated.
Kutokana kwa registration ya persons bureau kwamba vidole hivyo vimelingana kabisa na Jane Atila.
Familia kusema kweli ni uchungu kwanza. Ni uchungu sana kwa sababu ni msichana wetu wa kwanza. Ni uchungu. Hapo imefika sijui kama serikali, tukisema serikali saidia bado.
Jane was a second-year University of Nairobi student at Kikuyu campus. She was reported missing on 3rd October.
Justice for Jane Atila is what we are seeking now.
Human rights activists now blame police for laxity in investigating these cases when they are reported.
People come forward and they report, but police are too slow in investigating.
Our intention is to establish the motive behind these ugly performances to the extent that we don't know whether there are some other individuals who have suffered similar atrocities.
Police are holding 2 suspects in connection to the murder. Franklin Wala, Citizen TV.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has recovered 17 acres of Karura Forest in Kenya Technical Trainers College, KTTC land worth 2.8 billion shillings, illegally acquired by the late former Cabinet Minister John Joseph Kamotho back in the 90s. The property was reverted to the public following a landmark ruling by the Environment and Land Court in Nairobi, which also ordered the prosecution of 2 land officials involved in the illegal allocation. Willie Lusige reports.
Between 1987 and 1995, the late John Joseph Kamotho, then a powerful cabinet minister, grabbed 17 acres of public land within Karura Forest and a portion reserved for the Kenya Technical Teachers College, KTCC. 38 years later, that move has been reversed. On Tuesday, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, officially handed over the recovered land to the Kenya Forest Service, KFS.
We are very happy today that we are here to receive part of the land that had been grabbed earlier.
This follows a ruling by Justice David Mwangi of the Environment and Land Court, who found that JJ Kamotho had illegally acquired the property from Karura Forest and land reserved for public use by KTCC.
So we have been in court for 18 years, won this particular case. That certificate of lease, which was issued to the Gigiri Court Limited, was cancelled by the court. New lease or title will be issued to the 2 institutions.
Kamotho had registered the land under his company, Gigiri Court Limited, later selling it to investors who intended to build residential units, but a 2007 court case halted the development.
You can imagine if one individual had put up residential houses along these 16 acres or 17 acres, what would be the value of those assets? How much would he sell? We want to reassure the public that not only forests, but all public land that is grabbed or illegally allocated to individuals will be recovered back.
The court also directed that 2 land officials involved in the 1990s allocation be prosecuted. EACC saying government officials, past or present, who grabbed public land will face justice, noting that the commission has reclaimed several illegally acquired properties across the country. The commission has reaffirmed its commitment to pursuing ongoing investigations targeting current and former governors, county officials, and other public officers linked to corruption, and more heads will roll soon. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, even as President William Ruto lifted the 2018 logging ban to allow harvesting of mature trees in forests, the Forest Conservation and Management Law that governs the forest's harvesting rules prohibits the harvesting of timber in a state forest, provisional forest, a local authority forest, or a registered private forest without a valid license. And as Seth Olale reports, the existing law also states that the harvesting timber or bamboo shall only apply in a manner that does not cause unnecessary damage to the trees, the soil, or the resources in the felling area.
According to the general provision for harvesting timber as enshrined in the forest harvesting rules, no person shall harvest timber in a state forest, provisional forest, a local authority forest, or a registered private forest without a valid license. And that a person may harvest timber for the purposes of final felling, to harvest the final tree crop when the stand has reached the final felling age or the final felling diameter, selection thinning, to improve the stand composition, growth conditions for the remaining stand, and the forest health, sanitary harvesting, to remove pest, disease, wildlife or dead, wind-thrown and wind-broken trees or otherwise damaged trees. Reconstruction harvesting, to cut down a non-productive stand or any other type of harvesting intended to establish and maintain the forest infrastructure, to shape forest landscape or transform the forest land for other uses. The Forest Conservation and Management Law that governs the forest harvesting rules also protects against damage to resources in the harvesting area and stipulates a licensee shall harvest timber or bamboo in a manner that does not cause unnecessary damage to the trees, soil or resources in the felling area. The Director of Kenya Forest Service may, where a licensee has caused unnecessary damage to the trees, soil or resources in the felling area, direct the licensee in writing to remedy the damage attributed to the licensee within a specified time. Where a licensee fells or removes timber, bamboo or any other forest produce that is not designated for cutting or removal under the harvesting license, the licensee shall be liable to pay such damages as may be assessed by the director. According to Chief Steward, Green Africa Foundation, Dr. Isaac Kalua, failure to adhere to the set rules will infringe on efforts made to conserve water towers in the country.
Essentially, what should inform the country, what should inform policy, is the status of our forests. And it cannot be informed by mere sight, by mere overflying. There must be a scientific process of doing this.
The 2018 ban on logging was imposed by the then President Uhuru Kenyatta's administration following complaints over forest mismanagement from environmental activists. Seth Olale, Citizen TV.
President William Ruto has issued an ultimatum to all civilians who are illegally in possession of firearms in Baringo County to surrender them to the government, saying time has come to deal with banditry in the region once and for all. The president, who was speaking during his tour of Baringo County today, also lauded his newfound political alliance with KANU chairman Gideon Moi, saying the new cooperation will unite the country and open doors to development. Emmanuel Tor reports.
Baringo hoye!
His tour of Baringo County started with a stern warning to bandits and civilians who have been terrorizing and disrupting peace in the county.
Wamerejesha bunduki 600. Bado tunajua tuko na bunduki zingine ambazo hazijakuja. Tunajua imekuwa hapa kwa miaka karibu 30, but imefika siku ya mwisho. Na siku ya mwisho ndio sasa. Tunaelewana watu wa Baringo? Si hawa watu kila mtu arudishe bunduki kama maneno bado haijaharibika?
Kazi yenye tulianzia pale boda ya Marakwet na Pokot na Baringo County. Tayari sasa tumechukua bunduki 602, Your Excellency. Kwa Baringo alone tumechukua 170 guns, Your Excellency.
The head of state, who is on a tour of the region, issuing an ultimatum, putting all bandits on notice, saying their days are numbered.
Sisi tunajua kila mmoja mwenye yako na bunduki. Don't cheat yourself. And we are going to come for it. Tutakuja kuchukua bunduki. Either ulete mapema ama tutachukua bunduki na utajua ile itakupata.
Kulingana na ile direction ulinipatia na ukapatia IG na wizara yote, Your Excellency, we will make sure that all guns that are in hands of civilians are removed so that people can live in peace.
Kama uko na bunduki, peana mapema. Kabla hujakutana na watu ambao huwezi kuona makucha, huwezi kuona macho, huwezi kuona nywele, lakini fire ni fire.
And just 2 weeks after reaching out to KANU chairperson Gideon Moi, President William Ruto, who held rallies in Marigat and Kabarnet towns, lauded his newfound relationship as one which will transform the country.
Mimi na yeye ni ndugu moja ama sivyo? Si ndio? Na tumekubaliana tunatembea pamoja. Si ndio? Hatutaki tena maneno ile ya zamani ya kugawana hapa na pale. Tunataka tutembee safari moja. Tuunganishe kwa sababu umoja ni nguvu.
President Ruto then opened his bag of goodies to the county, promising more development in coming days.
Tunajenga university ya Baringo University. na wanafunzi wa kwanza tayari wameripoti.
Sisi wakaaji wa Baringo Kusini tunasema asante rais. Asante kwa sababu ya usalama. Salamu ya mheshimiwa wetu rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
The president also drummed up support for the UDA candidate in the Baringo senatorial by-election, Vincent Chemitei, saying he has the energy and skills to transform the county. President Ruto had earlier held a meeting with Nakuru County grassroots leaders at State House Nakuru, where he promised to launch an infrastructure fund to steer development in the country. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV.
Families of 5 people who perished in an accident in Keroka, Kisii, are calling on the government to erect more bumps and, if possible, a flyover to curb perennial road carnage at the black spot along the road. Citizen TV's Crispin Otieno with details on grief and anguish at Nyaribari Masaba.
Hours after a canter lost control before ramming boda operators at Masimba Junction in Keroka town, the ill-fated vehicle was towed to Keroka police station on Tuesday morning after claiming 5 lives. From the wreckage, the driver's cabin, which had 2 occupants, completely shut following the impact. This canter, according to Deputy Commander Fred Odada, was on its way from Masimba towards Keroka town.
The accident involved a canter, a Mitsubishi Fuso canter, ferrying molasses, and 3 motorcycles. The motor vehicle, which was being driven from Nyangusu general direction towards Keroka, lost control, hence did ram into the 3 motorcycles.
The scene of the accident bearing witness to what had happened earlier. Wilson Nyandusi, until his death, was the chairman for Gucha State boda operators. He was also a celebrated community health provider in the area. It is indeed a somber mood here in Keroka town, more especially for these boda operators who are currently mourning their chairman, who was among those who lost their lives as a result of that tragic accident. They're now calling upon the government to ensure that they find a long-lasting solution to perennial cases of road accidents along the busy stretch.
Watu wetu wameaga hapa jana kwa hachiri ya hii barabara. Tulikuwa tuna request kama serikali inaweza tusaidia hii barabara ipate diversion kutoka Ichuni. Kama mtu anaenda Nairobi itokesee Chebirati ama Metamayo huko, ama kama ingine itengenezwe diversion ingine kutoka hapa Ichuni itokesee huko Nyangoba.
Kwa vile sasa anatoka huko hakuna pambu, akisafika hapa ili top hana pambu, kuteremka chini kustuka hakuna brake. Sasa anakuja kumalizia hapo watu wetu hapa.
Back in his village at Nyanturago in Nyamasibi, Nyaribari Masaba, Nyandusi's family has been thrown into mourning unexpectedly. They describe their 52-year-old kin as their breadwinner.
Na huyu mzee wetu ndiye alikuwa anafanya kazi ndogo ndogo tu ya ukulima, ndio tulikuwa ndio alikuwa anafanya tu, ndio tunapata pesa ya kulipa school fees.
Kuna kazi zangu wengine na yeye pia alikuwa anawashughulikia. Sasa hii hakuna mtu anaweza tushughulikia tuendelee na masomo.
The bodies of those who perished currently lying at Gucha Level 4 Hospital's morgue awaiting autopsy. Crispin Otieno, Citizen TV, Kisii.
Human rights organizations have petitioned several diplomatic missions to intervene in securing the release of Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, 2 Kenyan nationals who were abducted nearly a month ago in Uganda. Amnesty International, Vocal Africa, and the Law Society of Kenya are urging missions from the European Union, the United States, the United Kingdom, and other partners to pressure the governments of Uganda and Kenya to immediately disclose the whereabouts of the missing duo. And as Citizen TV's Ben Kirui reports, the groups have also raised alarm over the condition of the 2, citing credible reports that Njagi and Oyo's health is deteriorating and that they require urgent medical attention.
It has been exactly 28 days since Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyoo were abducted in broad daylight in Kampala, Uganda. Since then, the two Kenyans have not been seen, and their whereabouts remain unknown. A chilling situation that has sparked panic, anxiety, and growing frustration among their families, friends, and human rights defenders. Human rights groups have been relentless in their calls for the immediate release, or at the very least the disclosure of the whereabouts of Njagi and Oyoo. However, their appeals to both the Ugandan and Kenyan governments appear to have fallen on deaf ears.
Free Bob, free Nick. Free Bob, free Nick.
On Tuesday, Amnesty International, Vocal Africa and the Law Society of Kenya jointly escalated the pressure, writing to several diplomatic missions urging them to intervene and pressed the two governments to urgently act. The condition of the missing duo has become a major concern, following reports from credible sources indicating that Njagi and Oyoo's health is deteriorating and in urgent need of medical attention. In their petition to diplomatic missions including the European Union and the embassies of the United States and the United Kingdom, among others, the organizations argue that the enforced disappearance of citizens, whether within or across borders, constitutes a grave violation of human rights that demands urgent international attention and intervention.
Free Bob, free Nick.
Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Irate residents from Nanderema village in Navaholo, Kakamega County attacked and killed a man suspected of killing a 5-year-old minor whose body was found in a pit latrine. It's alleged that 45-year-old Yusuf Busolo enticed the late Immaculate Nafala by giving her sugarcane before the deceased was last seen alive. After an intense search, the parents of the deceased ultimately discovered the body inside the suspect's house in the pit latrine. According to late Immaculate's mother, Florence Nafuna, the suspect was a neighbor who was spotted by other children in the vicinity, calling the victim before fleeing the neighborhood moments after committing the murder.
Akachukua mti na akachukua na baba ya mtoto. Akasema hapa sikuna kitu. Kweli wakachukua jembe. Wakasongesha huku makoko, ilikuwa tu makoko, yani choo lakini waliwekea makoko hivi. Kashima kakotoa hapo kadogo tu hivi. Wakaanza kutoa hivi na nikaona ndani mtoto wangu.
On that note, let's take our first break here on The Explainer tonight. Coming up on Power Talk, could there be some assets of yours that exist somewhere out there in this country? We're going to be telling you how you can reclaim your financial assets from the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. It's a conversation on Power Talk that you do not want to miss. We shall see you with that after the break. On Power Talk this week, we're talking money. Money that you may not know exists out there. Money that belongs to you, or financial assets that belong to you. How do you reclaim them? Today on Power Talk, we are talking about unclaimed financial assets and speaking to the chairman of the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, Dr. Njenga Kigo. Thank you so much for being with us on Power Talk today. Let's just start by reminding Kenyans the role and the mandate of the authority whose board you chair.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. The Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority is a parastatal, an authority created by Act number 40 of 2011, regulated by the Unclaimed Financial Assets Regulation of 2016, and we are under the supervision of the National Treasury. We are a parastatal under the National Treasury, and we are created for a purpose. And the purpose of our creation is to receive all unclaimed financial assets, receive them, safeguard them, and unite the same to the rightful owner. That is our core mandate. And the unclaimed financial assets are so many other assets other than fixed assets. Because I find people saying, my father had a piece of land somewhere, can I come claim for it? We had a house, we had a plot somewhere. No. The financial assets are assets that are financed in nature. From the amounts in cash or cash equivalent that are abandoned in banks, financial institutions, from the fines that are abandoned in courts of law, from the deposits that you abandon with the service providers, like the water service providers, including power and others.
So those are like deposits, huh?
Those are deposits.
I see, okay.
Your deposits which you have placed there.
Right.
From actually the amount of shares that you don't bother, the dividends that nobody can trace where you are, and then from the shares themselves, the shares that actually you bought, sold, and some units could not be sold because in Kenya, until recently, you could not sell 10 or less than 100 units. So once you sell your 2,000-3,000 shares, you abandon the balance, which is under 100. We call it the odd lots. From the insurance premiums that the owners cannot be located, from the deposits that are in banks, in fixed deposits, in core deposits, and they are actually, the owner cannot be traced. All this is what we call the financial assets.
I see. So when do they become, when and how do these assets become unclaimed?
The asset becomes unclaimed when the owner first cannot be located. So once you open an account and vacate or desert the account, and the bank cannot locate you for 2 years, or once you're employed somewhere and you vacate and you run away, and the employer cannot locate you for a year, this amount of money, the holder who has the money is expected to contact you at the last known address, and if he cannot get you, by all means, then that amount is declared unclaimed.
Okay.
May it be a deposit, may it be the M-Pesa balances that you abandon, the airtime that you abandon, maybe money in bank, anything that the owner cannot be located, even after contacting the person within the last known address, is actually called unclaimed financial assets, and the person holding it is called the holder.
Okay. And so there is a legal obligation on this asset holder, you said, to make every attempt possible to contact the owner of the asset.
Yes.
And once all of that has failed, what's the next legal obligation on this asset holder?
Very good. Once you cannot locate the owner, the next obligation or the next obligation by law, you're obligated by law as a holder to submit the amount in full to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority on or before 31st October of that year. All the unclaimed financial assets that qualify as explained should be remitted to the unclaimed financial assets by this Friday by the holders. And the holders, as I told you, are many institutions in our country. The banks, the financial institutions, the SACCOs, the courts, the various courts, the various employers, the insurance companies, all this. But the major holder we have is the commercial banks. About 70% are the holders of the unclaimed financial assets. So they are supposed to remit the same that has been for years with them without locating the owner, and it's 2 years for banks, and which they have contacted the last known address and can't get the owner. They should remit it by Friday, 31st of October. If they don't, we'll get them. We are out by law to do an audit. And the audit we do, once we get you, we will get the money and you'll be penalized and pay for the audit fee. We are around to do audits, to investigate, to identify unclaimed assets. We don't require anybody's authority. If the audit actually gets that you have the money, you'll bring the money back and you'll pay penalties and interest, at times even exceeding the amount you are holding, and then you pay for the audit fee. And if you do not pay, we'll use the judicial or the legal means to make you pay all the costs.
Okay, so there is a legal obligation on those who are holding the assets to not just inform you, but to remit those assets to your authority.
Yes, before
the 31st?
On or before that 1st October of every year.
So this is something they do every year?
They do,
like
they do annually.
Okay.
They do annually. Actually, over the years, since we started operating in 2016, we've been receiving, we started low, but cut of rate, we are receiving between 4 and 5 billion every year. And this amount, once we receive it, we safeguard it. Kenyans must know that their money is safe.
Yeah.
We safeguard the money by investing the same in an account at central bank where we buy treasury bills on boards, are waiting for us to do the major core mandate that we expected to do. That is to reunite people with their unclaimed financial assets.
Okay.
And that's why I'm taking this opportunity to ask all Kenyans of all walks of life to come to the unclaimed financial asset platform. This is, you just dial *361#.
Okay.
*361#, or you go to our website www.ufaa.go.ke, and then you go to search fixed assets or financial assets. After you do the search, the forms are there. You go to the forms that you're expected to fill. If you are the own claimant, you say own beneficiary, download the form, fill the form, your details, and then actually remit the same to us. If it's a beneficiary, then actually you fill in the form and close the required documents. Required documents is like the grant of administration. After obtaining a letter of administration, the grant of administration, we verify all this, and within 21 days after the due process, we remit the money to the owner. And that's why we are telling every Kenyan, come. We don't charge anything. It is free. You can even come where you are. And we need to give back this money to the owners so that the money can go back to the mainstream economy, so that we can bring in the agenda, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda into reality. And also, obviously, to transform lives and to improve livelihood of our people.
Yeah, and so you talk about this if the assets belong to you.
Yes.
Can you claim the assets, and I know you've talked about a little bit about this, but explain, can you claim the assets of parents, of those who are deceased, of perhaps deceased relatives, spouses? Is that something one can do?
Yes, yes. You should, if you are the administrator.
Okay.
If you are the administrator for your own, or even for your brothers and sisters, all you need is to go to the judicial system and get the grant of administration, the letter of administration, subsequently the grant of administration, and then go to our portal or come to our offices or call us. We shall remit that beneficiary form, it's normally called Form B, fill in and attach that and anything that you expected, and then once we verify that you are the rightful owner, the beneficiary, we remit you the money. Obviously, one of the greatest holders that we have are for the deceased persons, because some of these assets we are holding, the families are not aware that the loved one had money that they did not disclose. Our culture doesn't mean you disclose everything that you have. And also, leave alone that accountability is another issue, and also many other reasons. But mostly it's accountability and our culture, and our culture of being self-centered. So businesses also are done whereby you find dissolutions happen after someone has left, and sometimes you cannot be located. So the benefits or the dividends of the dissolution comes to us. So you can claim the money of your parents, and even you can check whether your father or mother or your relative had actually that money by simply getting the ID number and actually go dialing *361#.
Okay.
Once you do that, you know they had, and then obviously you start the process.
So *361#.
Yes.
Or
www.ufaa.go.ke.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
How much, is value of unclaimed assets are you holding?
Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority from 2016, when we started operation, has grown. Currently, the total amount that has been remitted to us in cash and equivalent is in excess of 36 billion shillings. That's the amount of money that has been sent to us. 1.9 billion units of shares have been remitted to us with a current value of 66 billion. So in total, from 2016, 102 billion worth of assets have been remitted to us. And the baseline survey that was done in 2018 had indicated that in total, over 241 billion is held in unclaimed financial assets. A recent survey just this year shows 300 85 billion shillings, or even more, close to 400 billion shillings. And when holders hold such money, they are doing injustice to Kenyans. Why are they doing injustice to Kenyans? If the money is remitted to us, we unify it with the rightful owners. Then it goes to the mainstream economy. Yeah. If it is brought to us and we cannot get the owners in the short run, this money is invested in the government of Kenya through treasury bills and boards, and it goes to help the government actually improve the services of our people. Okay. So any holder holding money that is not his is doing injustice, is not doing more obligation to the people of Kenya, should surrender it. If you don't get the owners, then we can press in our government in bills and boards and assist the government to give us services. Right. But otherwise, we urge Kenyans to come for their money.
All right. And that is why, as we close, your rallying call to those asset holders, remind us again the deadline that they have to remit all of those unclaimed assets to your authority.
You holders, commercial banks, financial institutions, SACCOs, any institution holding unclaimed financial assets, you have up to Friday the 31st of October to deliver all that money to us. In November, we shall commence audits, and once we get that you have money that you are holding, not remitting to us, then you'll pay us our money, you'll pay us the audit fee and the fines and the charges that are bestowed unto you, obligated to pay by the law. But my major call to the people of Kenya, claim your money. Go *361#. Go to the website www.ufa.go.ke.
Yeah.
Go to your assistant chief, your chief, the girls. They are our partners. They'll assist you. Get your money, claim it, get the money, invest it back to the economy so that you safeguard our economy as we continue saving and safeguarding our country.
There you have it. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Dr. CPA, I should add, Njenga Kigo, who's the chair of the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority.
Oh, you forgot Honorable.
Honorable too, yes, as it is.
Of Parliament forgot.
Absolutely. And a man who's not new to the Royal Media Services. Thank you so much for making time for us here on Power Talk. There you have it. Your assets could be out there. Please make a point of reclaiming them. That's Power Talk this week.
Thank you.
Grants 30-day detention for 6 suspects linked to... Welcome back. Now, human rights defenders across the East African region have accused Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan of rolling back democratic gains by suppressing opposition parties. Led by PLP leader Martha Karua, the activists have dismissed Wednesday's Tanzanian elections as a sham, even as the country's electoral commission insists all systems are ready for the polls. Stephen Leto reports.
As Tanzania heads to the polls on Wednesday, human rights defenders gathered in Kenya to express their frustration over the struggle to secure free and fair elections. The rights and democracy advocacy groups accuse the Tanzanian government of stage managing the polls, terming them a mere coronation of President Samia Suluhu Hassan.
As for an election to be free and fair, there must be at least a competitive election. This is not an election, ni maigizo or drama.
Despite the objections, the Tanzania electoral body has insisted that it is fully prepared for tomorrow's polls, with polling stations set to open at 7 a.m. and close at 4 p.m.
Vituo vya kupigia kura vitafunguliwa saa 1 kamili asubuhi na vitafungwa saa 10 kamili alasiri. Kwa upande wa vituo vya kupigia kura vya magereza na vyuo vya mafunzo, vituo vitafunguliwa saa 2 kamili asubuhi na kufungwa saa 9 kamili alasiri.
But despite the assurance, human rights defenders have accused Tanzania President Samia Suluhu of locking out his main opponents, including Chadema party leader Tundu Lissu.
According to a recent report by Amnesty International, repression in Tanzania has intensified. Amnesty has referred to Tanzania's situation under Suluhu and the forthcoming elections as unopposed, unchecked, and unjust.
The activists claim that several media houses have been shut down while others have been denied entry into Tanzania, with election observers suffering a similar fate.
Contrary to rumors circulating, no elections are happening in Tanzania tomorrow, as all international media companies have been barred from entering Tanzania.
No credible observation mission is currently in Tanzania. Belgium, Sweden, Germany, and Ireland have all withdrawn from the elections. The US is monitoring the situation, although it is not providing any official observers.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan is among 17 candidates cleared by the electoral body, with our main challengers locked out of the race. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV.
The grade 6 and 9 examinations continued smoothly for the second day with no incidents reported. The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Julius Bitok, led the opening of examination containers at the Deputy County Commissioner's office in Ngong, Kajiado North earlier today. Bitok stated that although there were challenges yesterday when some centres lacked certain exam papers, the situation was quickly addressed to ensure that every pupil was able to sit their exam, adding that efforts are being made to ensure the examinations proceed smoothly without any obstacles.
Today is day 2 for KAPSEA, KAJASEA, and we are confident that the process will go smoothly. And we have asked our stakeholders, our sub-county directors, our county directors, to ensure that they do their best to ensure that we deliver a credible exam.
6 suspects, including 4 Iranians, arrested in connection with the 8.2 billion shillings narcotics seized in the Indian Ocean, have been remanded for 30 days to allow police conclude investigations into the drug haul. Shanzu Senior Magistrate Anthony Mwishigi granted orders to allow security agencies more time for investigations. The investigating team also pleaded with the court to have electronic gadgets belonging to the suspects be taken through a forensic analysis in their push to unmask the ringleaders involved in the multi-billion shilling drug trade. The suspects, however, rejected their previous interpreter, accusing him of misrepresenting their statements. The court also directed that they be given medical attention. The matter will be mentioned on the 14th of November.
Orders are granted as prayed. The orders will issue accordingly. We'll mention this matter on 14th November for further orders and to establish the welfare of the respondents. Respondents be accorded medical examination and treatment at state expense. 14th of November they come back.
The Kenya Tea Development Agency, KTDA, has issued a stern warning to the political class, accusing some leaders of deliberately inciting tea farmers against the agency. Speaking in Murang'a on Tuesday, KTDA directors from the east of Rift region attributed the recent drop in tea prices to weak foreign exchange rates and lower international market prices. The agency's leadership also announced a series of resolutions aimed at revitalizing the sector and ensuring better returns for tea farmers.
In a joint statement issued at Kenol in Murang'a, KTDA board members acknowledged widespread frustration among farmers and other stakeholders after the average price of tea dropped from 389 shillings per kilo last year to 309 shillings. The agency noted that the reduced green leaf production also contributed to the decline in prices.
The reduction in this year's payments is mainly attributable to a combination of weak foreign currency and lower international tea prices. That is also combined with the fact that we lost several markets, including Sudan. We have lost the market in Iran. We have lost markets that are occasioned or are affected by the dollar. Even Pakistan is not buying our teas as much as we would have wanted them to buy.
Welcoming the proposed audit by the Ministry of Agriculture, the directors cautioned against rising political interference, describing it as a deliberate attempt to weaken the agency for personal or political gain.
Don't write down maybe the payment that they received. So, we are requesting that please let's get out of politics out of tea and let us work for the farmers because they have given the directors mandate for 3 years.
I want to tell the proponents of scientific testing, whatever that means, because organoleptic is also scientific, that tea testing will continue, and it's a scientific method.
Among the reforms being championed by the board members is the revision of levies imposed on tea, which they say ultimately hurt farmers' earnings.
Mnataka kwenda hivi ati muangushe KTDA, ati mututoe, ati ndio mchukue kampuni.
Laura Otieno, Citizen TV.
I know.
The High Court in Nairobi has today ordered the Inspector General of Police and the Director of Public Prosecutions to produce in court missing security analyst Mwenda Mbijiwe, whose whereabouts remain unknown 4 years and 5 months since his alleged abduction. In his orders, Justice Martin Muya compelled the two to, within 7 days, produce Mbijiwe dead or alive, following an urgent application filed by his mother, Jane Gatwiri, who sought the court's intervention in compelling the government to immediately and unconditionally set him free. In her affidavit, Gatwiri narrates how Mwenda, a former Kenya Air Force soldier turned security analyst, was whisked away by men believed to be security officers driving an unmarked vehicle in June 2021, never to be heard from. The case is set for mention on the 11th of next month. Jailed Tanzanian and Ugandan opposition leaders Tundu Lissu and Kizza Besigye have been recognized as champions of democracy in Africa by the Democracy Union of Africa Conference 2025. Tundu Lissu's award comes as Tanzania heads to the polls on Wednesday amid growing criticism over the suppression of dissenting voices against President Samia Suluhu Hassan's government. KANU chairperson Gideon Moi, Democratic Party leader Justin Muturi, and former Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo have urged African states to uphold democratic values and respect the will of the people. Melita Oletenges reports.
Regional politics in East Africa have seen increased pressure on opposition movements, with leaders such as Tundu Lissu of Tanzania and Kizza Besigye of Uganda facing arrests for challenging their respective regimes.
4 consecutive presidential elections.
Today, both leaders were honored at the Democracy Union of Africa Awards, receiving the inaugural Akufo-Addo Democracy Awards for their resilience in championing just and transparent electoral processes and for defending democratic space in their countries. Lissu's award was received on his behalf by Chadema Secretary General Deogratius Munishi, who read the imprisoned leader's acceptance speech.
In the past 6 months that have been held at this maximum security prison, charged with treason for calling for reforms of our rotten electoral system, Chadema has been slapped with a worldwide ban on political activity by a Samia-appointed High Court judge.
Former Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo, after whom the awards are named, called on African nations to uphold democracy and reject authoritarian tendencies.
There are those who would rather have authoritarian rule because they claim Africa is underdeveloped and democracy is cumbersome, and we need to get things done in a hurry. We still have some work to do to convince such people that we are all safer under democracies.
KANU chairman Gideon Moi and Democratic Party leader Justin Muturi echoed calls for the protection of democratic institutions, emphasizing respect for sovereignty and the rule of law.
Across the world, we are witnessing the rise of radical populism, that exploits division, the resurgence of extreme nationalism that thrives on fear, and the erosion of democratic values that once bound nations together.
Political parties must engage Africa's youth and women as active architects of policy, not passive beneficiaries.
Former President Akufo-Addo also condemned the recent wave of unconstitutional power takeovers witnessed across Africa. He paid tribute to the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga for his lifelong dedication to advancing democracy on the continent.
And I have no doubt that his remarkable footprints on Kenya's stability, democracy, and history will remain indelible.
The late former President Daniel Arap Moi was also honored posthumously for his contributions to Africa's development. The award was received by his son and KANU chairman Gideon Moi. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV.
The Jipange na Viusasa caravan has wrapped its tour across Meru, Isiolo, Tharaka Nithi and Embu counties, leaving thousands of fans energized and ready to win big. The caravan now heads to Kiambu and Murang'a counties starting tomorrow. In Kiambu, the caravan will kick off in Limuru and then proceed to Kwambira, Kimende Town, Githunguri, Ikenu and several other stops before concluding the day's activation in Kiambu Town. During that Kiambu tour, the Inoro FM crew will be awarding 2 lucky winners, the daily 50,000 shillings winner and the weekly 500,000 shillings winner. The campaign aims to drive awareness of the Jipange na Viusasa promotion, where subscribers stand a chance to win 50,000 shillings daily and 500,000 shillings weekly and a grand prize of 2 million shillings. To participate, simply subscribe to Viusasa using paybill number 724177 and enter your phone number as the account number. Already the promotion has paid out about 3 million shillings to subscribers. So keep subscribing and keep watching to stand a chance to change your life. There will be no job losses, says Arise platform. In tonight's business news, Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms has dismissed reports of layoffs at Rivertex East Africa Limited following its 21-year lease agreement with the government. The company says the deal is aimed at reviving the struggling textile firm, not selling it off, and has already committed $20 million to upgrade its facilities. Here's Jasmine Wamboi with that story.
The developer, Arise Integrated Industrial Platforms, has sought to calm fears over job losses, saying all qualifying Rivertex employees will be retrained and absorbed once operations begin. At the time of leasing, Rivertex had about 600 employees.
Majority of those, as happens everywhere in textile, were on contractual basis. And naturally, their contracts came to an end. But those who are permanent and pensionable, the labor laws were followed to be able to pay them their dues and make them available for the next chapter.
Under the 21-year lease, Arise IIP will operate, maintain and upgrade Rivertex facilities, while the government of Kenya retains full ownership of the assets. The partnership is part of efforts to rescue the factory, which has for years struggled with inefficiency, mounting losses and outdated machinery.
If all goes well and the conditions or the agreements that were signed are respected by all parties, you should see Rivertex up and running in a very short time and supporting the ecosystem in 2 to 3 years.
Arise will inject $20 million to upgrade Rivertex, with the modernization expected to improve production capacity and boost the competitiveness of locally made textiles.
To be able to be as efficient as possible, because textile as an industry is very competitive, and the margins are very thin. So you need to have the latest technology. And as we speak, there's a team, they are already doing a review of the machinery.
Beyond Rivertex, the firm is expanding its footprint in Kenya's textile industry by establishing a 200-ton-per-day textile plant at the Vipingo Special Economic Zone in Kilifi County. Jasmine Wamboi, Citizen TV.
Emirates Airlines is mulling the possibility of increasing its frequency in the Kenyan market. According to Emirates Regional Director and Manager for Kenya, Christophe Leloup, Kenya is the airline's second best performing route after South Africa. Jimmy Mbogo now has more on the airline's plans towards connecting Kenya to its 150 destinations.
Over the last 3 decades of Emirates' participation in the Kenyan market, the airline has transported over 6.6 million passengers. This necessitating an increase in frequency to 2 daily flights out of East Africa's busiest hub. The airline now seeks to take advantage of the increasing number of trade, leisure and corporate business clients to align with the government's plan of attracting 5 million tourists by 2030.
If the ambition is to grow to 5 million tourists by 2030, it will require more seats, more capacity, more frequencies from Emirates, because it will depend also on the number of frequencies that we will operate in the near future. But I think we can easily, if you want me to give you a number, I would say minimum of a 20-25% growth in the next 2-3 years. I mean, it's possible.
The carrier also has its eyes set on the cargo business, with plans to increase its freight capacity by 5 new freights out of the 21 planes expected to join its fleets. This could see Kenya's fresh produce like meat and signature cut flowers gain more access to Europe and the Middle East. In 2024 alone, the airline said it moved 16,000 tons of flowers alongside fruits and vegetables bound for the United Arab Emirates and beyond.
Earlier this year, the UAE and Kenya signed a very important agreement, and the objective is also to increase Kenya exports to the UAE. So Emirates is definitely supporting that objective of Kenya to grow their exports to the UAE and to the world.
The airline has, however, expressed concerns over plans to impose additional levies on air tickets, noting that this could undo the gains made in air travel.
I don't think this is something that, of course, IATA and the airlines are supporting, because it is adding to the cost of traveling. And I think in Africa, one of the issues people are facing is the cost of air travel. Unfortunately, the road infrastructure is not supporting intra-Africa travel.
The airline currently employs more than 1,000 Kenyans, including 250 crew members and 40 Kenyan pilots. Jimmy Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Family Bank shareholders have approved plans to list the lender on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in 2026 through a listing by introduction, which will allow trading of existing shares without raising new capital. The move will enable shareholders to trade their shares on the open market and provide liquidity. The decision follows a shareholder meeting and comes as the bank completes a private placement pending regulatory approvals from the Central Bank of Kenya and the Capital Markets Authority. Let's start with the latest from the Harambee Starlets camp. And the national women's football team has indeed qualified for the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Now, the Starlets edged the Gambia 1-0 in the return leg of the final round of qualifiers played this evening in Senegal to register an aggregate of 4-1. Now, back home, Mara Sugar let a 2-goal lead slip through their fingers to settle for a 2-2 draw against Sofapaka in a thrilling FKF Premier League clash on Tuesday afternoon. The Millers, playing away at Dandora Stadium, looked in full control early on with goals from David Owino and Timothy Ndayala. But Batoto Bamungu fought back bravely, with Stanley Atsungu playing one back before Joseph Kuloba completed the comeback to earn a deserved point. With the draw, Sofapaka moved to 13th on the table with 5 points from 5 games, while Mara Sugar sit 10th with 6 points.
Timothy Ndayala anaweka chuma cha pili. Joseph Kuloba inapigwa pass pembeni kwa nguvu mpya Lugalio. Super sub kupambana Sofapaka. Vendi na Mbesa anaileta ndani huku. Ameishika kwanza, ameitema. Joseph Kuloba.
Inspired by Kenya's javelin legend Julius Yego, deaf athlete Kelvin Kipchoge is aiming for gold in javelin at the 2025 Tokyo Summer Deaflympics, scheduled from November 15th to the 26th. The 27-year-old will also compete in the long jump, but his main focus remains the javelin, where he hopes to emulate Yego's success and bring home a gold medal. Kipchoge, who won bronze in his Deaflympics debut in Brazil in 2022, is targeting a 60-meter throw in Tokyo. His qualification came after a strong showing at the national trials held at the Ulinzi Sports Complex in September, and he says is more determined than ever to make Kenya proud.
I do javelin. I am a javelin thrower, and I have been training since the year 2022 when I participated in Brazil for the Deaflympics, and then we had the African Championship that was happening here in Kenya, where I was able to become first. And now we are going to be going to Tokyo, Japan, and I feel that I must get a gold. My goal is to come back with a gold medal.
Sports Principal Secretary Elijah Mwangi has assured residents of Bungoma that the Masinde Muliro Stadium will finally be completed within a month. Mwangi, who inspected the facility earlier today, urged residents to give the government 30 days to complete the remaining works, which include roofing and final touches. He revealed that both the national and county governments are now fully engaged in fast-tracking the project. The stadium, which hosted the 2024 Madaraka Day celebrations, remained unfinished after the event.
The discussion that we have had with him and his commitment that within the next 1 month it shall be done. And the works that currently are undergoing is the roofing of the entire stadium. There are some electrical works, some mechanical works, some few remedial works, including landscaping, so that it can come out the way other stadiums that we have done.
Paris Saint-Germain have announced record revenues of 837 million euros. That's approximately 126 billion Kenya shillings for the 2024-25 season, the highest in the club's history. The Champions League winners surpassed their previous best of 806 million euros or 121 billion shillings, driven by strong commercial deals, matchday sales and global fan support. PSG generated 367 million euros in commercial revenue, 175 million from matchday income from the Parc des Princes selling out for a remarkable 170 consecutive matches. It was a season to remember as PSG lifted their first ever Champions League trophy alongside the Ligue 1 title, the French Cup and the Trophée des Champions before falling short in the Club World Cup final. And that's where we leave it. Thank you very much for watching The Explainer this last Tuesday of the month of October. My name is Yvonne Okwara. Our sign language interpreter is Njoki Shege. Good night.